it's been part of our world for longer than most people know. I mean, it's always been there. It's just now it's finally stepping into that spotlight where people are kind of just okay, wow, what's to come? What is it? Yeah, but around the globe, AI it stirs up controversy, whether it be cybersecurity, replacing jobs, false proof of things that it can now make, um, cheating on exams, whatever it is. It's just so much that's been coming with it, and it's such a complex topic. There's no laws built around it that it's quite frankly it's pretty scary right now. Personally, so far, AI hasn't touched my life negatively. Um, but there's always that thought lingering in my mind, in the back of my head, a little whisper like, what about tomorrow? Being an art major is hard already, so an AI to make the beat of a song, for example, an AI to come up with the lyrics, and an AI to even voice it. There's a whole production network there gone to AI. So who's to say, one day I'm not competing for, my source of income, my living, my profession against a machine.
Over the last few years, there's been an astonishing amount of progress made in artificial intelligence technology, and it is becoming increasingly more prominent in our lives. Dr. Andrew Gambino is a professor at the University of Delaware who researches interpersonal relationships with media, technology, and machines. Dr. Gambino shares his understanding of AI.
So, you could argue that a calculator is a rather rudimentary form of artificial intelligence because it allows us to make calculations, makes calculations quite a bit better and competently than us, more competently than us, and can aid us in many ways. And now we have, of course, I think the breakthrough in tech behind a lot of AI and modern AI is just the ability to leverage machine learning. And now, really, the thing that's, I think, blowing people away is that you have these large language models that are trained on just massive corpuses of data, and they can pretty well mimic conversation with a lot of accuracy as well. And generally, the way that these models work is, at least things like ChatGPT and these new models are just kind of trying to guess the next word in the sequence, which is quite remarkable, and just putting out the most probabilistic next word. And even with this method that probably doesn't approximate how humans actually come to form words and strings and sentences and paragraphs and thoughts, it does quite an excellent job at looking exactly like a sophisticated human. So sometimes it's quite interesting to see how I think these artificial intelligence agents get to a similar place without necessarily following the same process that humans use.
Dr. Kevin Guidry is the Associate Director of Educational Assessment at the University of Delaware. He specializes in the assessment of student learning and is now facing new territory as AI makes its way into education.
For most disciplines, this is very new territory. Those who don't typically work in computer science or the analysis of large data sets, this is new, and many of us are still figuring that out. That for many, especially in teaching, these tools aren't really used in a lot of places yet because they are so new in the sense of being accessible to non-experts. The tools and the technologies aren't new, but them being so easy to use, that is a big change in the last year and a half. That's one of the main things that ChatGPT really did, is make these tools accessible to a large number of people.
We also invited a senior student, Alvaro Ayala, at the University of Delaware. Now let's listen to his unique ideas on AI technology.
Once you try, you get to see kind of how powerful a lot of these AIs are. Some can make photos for you, some can make um like everything. So it's like you just have to find a certain type of AI. Some do cost money to use, but some is easy to find anywhere and easy to use. That's why a lot of people use it.
There are growing concerns about how the advancement of AI technology may affect the job market.
You can go back into even the dawn of the industrial age and read like some Oscar Wilde writings on it. And the arguments and the narratives are so similar when at the advent of machines at all. Machines that complete tasks, and artificial intelligence is designed to complete tasks, are always going to displace workers. They're always going to increase or remain same the amount of capital that can be derived with fewer workers, which is expensive for companies. So in that sense, it's not just information task, it's always been like these types of manual labor positions as well. And that's been a fight that's gone on for centuries. And I think it will continue because one thing that the techniques of, we'll call them deep learning or neural nets, enable is sometimes ways to understand and complete tasks in a completely different and sometimes more sophisticated and efficient manner than humans have been able to find. And deep learning nets are very good at finding patterns and processes that can lead to different ways to complete tasks. So I think it's a good question because a lot of times people think about these iterations of AI just really focusing on how they're going to displace workers now in white collar positions. But I also think even the same models, just in different contexts, are going to have a similar effect in terms of robotics, in terms of manual labor positions as well.
There are growing concerns about how AI is used.
Of AI, which is good, but I can see where it can affect you negatively, especially if people use it for the wrong intent. The news you hear, a lot of photos are fake using AI. You use someone's voice to say something for for malintent with AI. So, who's to say, you go to a courtroom, what evidence, for the evidence fake, but, more technology, you can't really tell that it comes from AI. You might have to, you can mask it. So it's very hard to use photos, videos, and recordings as proof to, prove yourself innocent of something you haven't even done because AI is there. So that part could be very frightening.
Because they're going to be deployed for use in a capitalist truly world, which is okay, they're going to have the effect of really all industrialization machines have over the last 150 years since the industrial age, which is to displace workers and have people who use these for, say, knowledge work or artificial intelligence possible work, going to reduce the workforce and increase productivity. So that just displaces people from possibly earning a livelihood. Where is this training data coming from? It's coming from stuff that perhaps you have written, others like you have written, and is just available online. But it seems like a glaring issue because without the use of all of our contributions by way of, for example, some of the training data for like Google's large language models is based off of our Gmail, which is supposed to be private, which is private, and our data is anonymized. But every time that you've taken a suggestion in like Gmail to complete the string or not complete the string, that data has been used to train that model. I think in that case, because these models would not work with all of us putting our real-time input as well as our anything that's online that's training these model input, I think in that sense, it should be kind of these large language models as they're put into practice should have more of a public utility bent, and the compensation should be provided to people that perform essentially or provide that training data. And those questions aren't really brought up too much because there's no answer from the firms. The firms like OpenAI, Google, and Microsoft, they rely on stealing that data and using that data, or else the models would be so unsophisticated as to not at all even be worth using. Like they're only so good because they can train on so much data and use so much computing power to train on that data. Because these models, although they are seemingly very sophisticated in the output stage, right? They look amazing. They are, pretty amazing, but they're very, I think many people would say they're very like stupid models. The way that a human, like you all, train your brain and learn things is spectacular and amazing. You can do it like you read one passage one or two times and you can understand it and you have that retained in your memory. Now, a computer, especially with a large language model, it might, in that same exact actual time frame, thinking in terms of minutes and seconds, be able to memorize to some degree, or put into a database and understand to some degree thousands or even millions of times in like 1 hour. But during that 1 hour, it's essentially doing the work of millions of humans in observations because it has so much calculation power in its training data net. If you could do that much calculation power, it would, of course, be remarkable how much any type of human being would know. But because it's in that same exact time frame, it's just much more powerful in that time frame, it feels like these models are very sophisticated and advanced, when in fact they're actually rather crude. They're just able to do this crude task of taking a little bit of observation millions, perhaps billions of times at a more intense level than human. Models aren't actually that sophisticated, and they totally rely on and need all the data that is put out there by humans. So I think to some degree, we should come up with a way to distribute the wealth accordingly if these are employed for means especially to displace workers.
Due to the newness of many of these technologies, there are no concrete rules in place at the university when it comes to students using AI for their assignments. So faculty are encouraged to clearly communicate their own policies for how students may use AI.
It's a tool. It's a suite of tools, very complex tools. In broad strokes, yes. I do think that we need to be thoughtful about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So on the research front, the University of Delaware has had for several years a Center for Excellence in AI. That's run by mostly computer scientists, but there are other faculty involved in that. And they focus more on the research aspects, kind of how can we use these tools to analyze data, to do things that are within the research sphere. Teaching and learning, that is a list of considerations for faculty members who are interested in using AI. And one of those considerations, for example, is that you should be thinking about proper and effective pedagogical uses for the technology. In other words, think about ways to use the technology to support and encourage good practices, not just the practices that are available. So is that something that we want to offload to an AI tool? It can do it reasonably well. Or would we want to say that, no, we could do that, but that's not a good idea, and here's why. So I think the answer is yes, there are absolutely some good uses of the tools, but we need to be thoughtful about that, not just to do what the tool allows us to do.
A chat box, ask it how to break it down for me in simpler terms, and AI does it. It takes a lot of data from the internet, million different data sets to take from to come up with these answers in an instant.